So, welcome to our Sankirtan podcast, everyone. We are now here with Vijaya Das Prabhu, who has been with ISKCON and Srila Prabhupada's movement, I think, since 1977, and is now a minister of the Sankirtan. What is your actual title that you're holding right now?
Minister of Book Distribution.
Minister of Book Distribution in the whole world?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's great. Well, that's a great title to hold, and you can then maybe give us a little history about how you got to that position. But we want to hear today about your Sankirtan activities, your experience, any inspirational stories that you might have to share to enliven other book distributors, regarding people's reaction to the books that you give them. I'm going to turn this speaker off so we don't hear that again. And so anyway, first of all, tell me a little bit of your history, a little background. Were you in a family that was religious, first of all? Were you searching for God? Were you a religious person in the house when you were growing up?
Well, my family is Christian, but I wasn't so impressed with Christianity. I tried to read the Bible. I mean, New Testament I read, but the Old Testament I just couldn't get through it. Get to page 3 or 4 and couldn't go further. So I started searching. I grew up in Los Angeles there, and I was at one friend's house, and one yogi came on television, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. And he was talking about spiritual things, and it was kind of a little bit interesting. So I thought, let me check it out. They had a place there in Los Angeles. You go and you see, what they're doing. You check it out, and for 3 days. And then after 3 days, if you want, you could buy a mantra. I'm sure you're familiar with that. So right. I bought my mantra, $120 back then. Wow. It was cheap. Now it's $1,500.
Oh my. Inflation, huh?
Oh my God, man.
Or supply and demand.
It's business, man. It's strict business. So I started chanting this mantra, twice a day, 15 minutes. It was it was good, kind of helped me slow down a little bit. I was young in Southern California. So then I thought, well, this is probably not the best place for spirituality, Los Angeles. So I was reading these books on philosophy, and I got Baba Ram Dass's book, so I thought, let me go somewhere else. So when I left LA, I was searching for like a paradise where I could just, practice spiritual life with like-minded people. So I went traveling, and as I'm traveling, I'm reading his book, and he says that as one advances in spiritual life, one becomes detached from material things, family, friends, money, and all these different things. So I thought, that makes sense. You go on a spiritual journey, then you become detached from material things. So as I'm traveling, all my things were stolen. So I thought, well, that's good. This process is working, even though I didn't want it. So then I thought, well, maybe the Bahamas would be good. So I went down to the Bahamas and took a flight over to the Bahamas from Miami, and thinking that would be a good place, but it was terribly materialistic. So I decided to leave the next day. But not before someone stole all my money. But it was so good. I mean, I was so happy at that point. My money is gone. I don't have anything, but I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt something amazing is going to happen to me. I'll never go back again to material life. So I was so happy, just anticipating the next page to be opened in the journey. So I still had my ticket somehow. I had my passport, and I had this book by Baba Ram Das. So I flew back to Miami, not knowing where I'm going. I just stuck my thumb out and hitchhiking. And someone picked me up and said, so where are you going? I said, well, I don't know. God has me on this journey. I don't know where I'm going, but I like it. So he said, well, you're going to need money wherever you go. So when you go down to Key West, get a job. All right. I took that as God's direction. Went down to Miami, got a job. And I got this apartment down there, and I'm still reading this book by Baba Ram Das. At the end of the book, he had books recommended to read. And one of them was Bhagavad Gita. So when I saw those 2 words, I thought, wow, that sounds like such an interesting book. So I went to the public library and there was 4 different ones. Now what? Fortunately, our BBT made ours more attractive, so I pulled out Prabhupada's. I took it home. I couldn't put it down. I read it in 3 days. It wasn't the unabridged that we have now. It was the abridged. Remember the yellow back?
Mm-hmm.
So that was the one I read. I read it in 3 days, and from reading that, I stopped chanting the other mantra, Ainga. That was the mantra, Ainga. So I stopped chanting that, and I started chanting Hare Krishna. So I had this job. There was nobody else around, so I was just chanting Hare Krishna all day long, and it was like it was so ecstatic. Just Krishna was giving me some mercy. I was just chanting all day long. Then after 3 days of working there and chanting Hare Krishna, I went out of my workplace, the exit there, and 100 yards from the exit, there was devotees there chanting Hare Krishna. A little bhajan on the pier. So I went over there and said, hey, you guys are chanting the same mantra I chant. And they said, oh, you chant Hare Krishna? I said, yeah, I've been chanting Hare Krishna all day in that building for the past 3 days. And they're like, what? So they preached to me for a couple hours and said, you know, we have a little preaching center here. If you want, you can come and stay with us. I said, all right. I moved in that night.
In Miami or
No,
Gainesville?
it's Key West.
Key West. Okay.
Still in Key West. Now, it wasn't really an official preaching center. It was just a few devotees trying to keep something together.
Okay. This is
So,
what, 1977, 78?
Early 78.
Okay, go ahead.
So I went and stayed with them. I'm still working, and they have other books there. I'm reading other books, you know, like by Bhaktisiddhanta, Nectar of Instruction. I was reading Nectar of Instruction. And Prabhupada says in one purport that if one doesn't chant 64 rounds a day, actually this is a quote from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He says, if you don't chant 64 rounds a day, you're considered a fallen soul. And I was thinking, well, God, I don't want to be a fallen soul. I was chanting 64 rounds a day. Yes, I didn't know anything. So I was chanting 64 rounds a day, but I was still working, so that wasn't possible. So I brought it down to 32. So 32 I can do. So I was 32 rounds a day going to work. And then they said, you know, there's a temple in Miami. You can actually go there and get trained up. Nice temple. So I said, all right. So I went to Miami, and the Miami temple, I don't know if you've ever been there. It was called New Namaskar Forest before they got the big hotel. And it was beautiful. It had 80 mango trees. Mm. There's a nice little lake down there, and they had 6 acres of flowers. We sent flowers to all the temples in America. It was a beautiful. Remember when I left LA, I was looking for paradise.
That was it.
That was it, and it was just beautiful. There was peacocks all around, and ducks, and there was it was just absolutely beautiful. Banana.
Okay. All right.
It's the only tropical place in America. It's really nice. So then they said, the president, Narahari, you probably heard of Narahari. He said, are you bold? I said, well, yeah, I can be pretty bold. All right, we're going to put you on book distribution. So the next day I was out on book distribution. And we were doing the lights back then. You know, you stop the people at the light, you know, try to give them BTG. It's really tough. So it was so tough. I was thinking maybe there's some verse in the Bhagavad Gita that could help me through this. Mm-hmm. So the first verse I ever learned in the Bhagavad Gita was Yang Hinavyati Yantete Purusam Purusarsava Samadukha Kamdiram Somachatvaya Kavate. One who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. So yeah, that was the first verse.
So that got you through the day.
That helped me through the day and the week and the month.
Good.
So
well, that's an instructive thing then. Apply it to book distribution.
Yeah, it's very important. It's, you know, book distribution, it's not an easy service. So you gotta really be, you know, steady and determined.
What convinced you about the philosophy or just the life of Krishna consciousness to want to share it with others in the form of book distribution by distributing Prabhupada's books? What inspired you?
That Bhagavad Gita, man, when I read the Bhagavad Gita, I just thought, this is it. This is the absolute truth. I mean, I was studying different philosophies and different religions, but with the Bhagavad Gita, that was just like, that was it. Just knocked everything else out of the wire. I mean, I was just convinced this Krishna's God. I'm going to embrace this. So And then from reading the Bhagavad Gita, I wanted to distribute. I wanted to give it out to others. So then I started that book distribution. Then they asked me to go to the airport, because I was doing quite well actually on the streetlights, believe it or not.
Okay.
So back then we were doing airports. So they asked me to go to the airport, and the airport was a whole another ballgame. So you stop businessmen and engineers, and they're coming
Right.
through.
What
So
type of sayings, or what was your line? What was your preaching method
well, back then,
at the airport then?
back then we were all so everybody, literally everybody in the airports all around the country. Yeah, we're helping kids off drugs and we're feeding people. That was the basic line. It was just completely because we were new, we didn't know what to say to people,
Uh-huh.
whatever would, get some sympathy from their hearts to give a donation and take the book, So we weren't really presenting the book as Prabhupada
Okay.
wanted us to on the
Right.
merit of the book. We were new, immature. As one
Right.
devotee said, the only mature devotee in our movement, back then was Prabhupada. So we're so young and immature.
Right.
We were missing.
So how has it changed over the years? How are you preaching now when you distribute Prabhupada's books?
Prabhupada, he put pictures in the books for a reason. People are attracted to art, especially if there's a message in the artwork. So I show the changing body. That's the first thing. We've seen it a million times, but when someone first sees that, it's like, "Whoa, okay, that's interesting." And then I said, well, what really catches people, sometimes people buy the book for this one picture of the five senses, the horses, the chariot. I show that. I really emphasize that. I really show that nicely. People just like, wow, okay, this is great. And
So
then
I describe it. If imagine that I'm someone you're meeting, where do you go distribute in parking lots, or what type of venues?
For years, as I mentioned, I was doing the airport. 12 years, actually about 16 years airport. And then I got some inspiration from Ganapati Maharaj, our unsung hero that many people don't know about. Ganapati Maharaj, he's been distributing books at colleges for like 45 years or something, or something like that. So I got some inspiration from him. And so I've been distributing books at colleges since 1994. And
So I'm a student, or imagine I'm a student at a college, or I'm a businessman you might meet in the airport, and I'm walking along. Give me your pitch with the reference of the horses and the senses.
Well, now what we do is, as Ganapati Maharaj, he has a leaflet. That's what gets people. I distribute from the table, so that gets them to the table. So I hand them, here you go. They come to the table. That gets them to come to the table, and then. So let me show you some. I call it wisdom art.
Okay.
It's a great way to present the book. This is wisdom art for you. So I show them first. I show the changing body. We used to have a child body, then used to have an old body. Then I go to the five senses. So I explain that the chariot is the body, the reins is the mind, and the five senses: the sight, the smelling, the hearing, touching, etc. This is the senses are being pulled. The senses are pulling the living entity. So the intelligent, the driver is the intelligence, and the passenger is the soul saying, "Whoa, whoa, 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 slow down! You're reckless. You're getting out of control." So yeah, people just love that. And then I also show the one where the Brahmana sees with equal vision the saintly person, the elephant, the dog eater, the Sudra. People like that a lot also.
So that type of preaching, that approach, really goes beyond religion or sectarian type of consciousness of Christian. It applies to Christians, Jews, Muslims, the soul, which is.
And therefore I distribute a lot of books to Christians. I tell, if I find out they're Christian, no, we're not trying to change your belief. There's always more to learn about God and about the soul. And quite often they take the book just on saying that, because see, they become a little defensive.
Yes.
Another religion is trying to give me something of their belief, but I tell them, no, 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 we're not trying to change your religion, your belief, but there's always more to learn. So then you give a positive. There's always more to learn.
Okay. Very good.
He's on
Uh-huh. And then how do you obviously need something to cover the cost of the book. So how do you broach that topic at the end?
Yeah,
Or if there,
that's always been a challenge. How to get a donation for the book. So I got this from Vijaya.
okay. So the book's in their hand now.
Books in their hand.
Okay, go ahead.
They'll say, well, how much? So I tell them, you can't put a price on wisdom. They say, all right, that's true. But then I say, but typically people with a hardbound Gita, I tell them, typically people give anywhere between 10 and 30. Up to you.
Mhm.
And sometimes they'll say, well, I can give 5. And that's okay. And that's true. Sometimes people, I mean, I used to say, well, sometimes people give in 10, between 10 and 20,
Mhm.
and then you have 25 or 30. So, I mean, it's a good sized book. You know, the hardbound Bhagavad Gita in the store, you can pay at least $30 or something like that.
Right.
So that's what I say. So these are very open. You know, typically people are giving anywhere between 10 and 30. So a lot of people give 20, 25, 10. You know, most people give 10, but that's okay.
Mhm.
But that's just a very nice way to present it so they don't feel uneasy, and it's true.
Mhm.
So, but one of the things when I travel around the world and I teach about book distribution, I tell them the golden rule of book distribution is everybody walks away with a good impression.
Okay, good.
At least they walk away with a good impression. We want them to at least walk away with a smile. Maybe not with a book, but at least with a smile that they met a nice person.
Are you dressed in devotional clothes or normal quote unquote karmic clothes? Or how are you
Well,
presenting yourself?
I'm sitting at a table. So what you see right now is what they see. I'm sitting at a table. So
With a t-shirt.
whether I'm in a dhoti or a pants, they just don't know because I'm at a table. So I'm in a t-shirt and pants, yogi pants. I wear some yogi pants.
Okay. But not a collared shirt, like
No, it's like this.
a t-shirt. Okay.
That's a
You
monk
look
shirt.
like a monk.
I look like a monk.
Are you wearing a hat or you come out with the
Yeah,
shaved head?
I burn real quick. I got a hat.
Okay. All right. How do you respond to the people who are not so inclined and have challenges, say that I don't have enough money or I'm of a different religion? What are some of the lines that people give that try to get them out of taking the book?
Why they don't want to take a book. So one of the most classic ones is they say, I try to give them a book and they say, no, no, I'm good. That's like a mantra that they come back with, you know, when I try to give them a book. I'm good. So I tell them, yeah, you can be better. And sometimes they come back. Yeah, you're right. What do you got? Let me show you. Show me what you got.
Okay. What else?
And sometimes they say, well, I'm a Christian. I said, that's fine. We're on the same side. This is about God. And we're not trying to change your belief. There's always more to learn, right? About God. All right, yeah, okay. And this book has many good arguments against atheism.
That'll stop them. Yeah.
And one guy, I was distributing books in Australia. I went door to door.
Mm.
And an American guy answers the door. And I said, yeah, I'm there. What are you doing here? He said, I had to leave. Once Nixon became president, I left. So he said, and by the way, I worship Satan. I'm not interested in the book you have. He saw that I had the Bhagavad Gita.
Mm.
Said, no, I worship Satan. You worship Satan, so you should know your enemy. This is all about God. And he said, all right, good point. All right, I'll take one.
How much did he give?
He did $20.
Voluntarily.
Voluntarily, I didn't take it from him.
Oh, he didn't say how much is it. He just reached in. And
No,
gave
he just gave $20.
Very good.
Yeah, another time I was in the airport in Los Angeles, and the guy was showing a little interest.
Mm-hmm.
But then he said, "No, I probably won't read. I'm not that interested." So I pointed to his head and I said, "Up here, you're not interested, but here, you're very interested." And he said, "All right, you got me. All right, okay." That's a good one. And yeah, whatever religion they say they are, I just tell them,
Hmm.
"I'm not trying to change your belief. There's always more to learn." And sometimes I say, "Well, the book is too heavy."
Yes.
And I say, "Well, this book is so heavy, it'll carry you." They like that one. All right, I'll take it.
That's a good line.
Yeah, there's many excuses.
What about, oh, I don't have any cash on me.
Oh yeah, we don't take cash. No, we don't. Sometimes they say that, but yeah, we take Venmo and cards also.
You
We
have the
take
Square or some other
Apple
device.
Pay, we take, we have to Square. So yeah, we take any, some. I was just at UCSD yesterday, and the
Mm,
stores don't take cash. So it's becoming like that now.
okay.
It might become like that for the Sankirtan devotees eventually.
What about someone who's really interested? Have you come across people that are interested in yoga and other spiritual, avenues to pursue? What, any experience of someone who's like really jazzed to meet you and finally find a Bhagavad Gita?
Well, I'll
Or are
tell
they
you
rare?
a thing that happened recently. I was distributing books at Balboa Park, where Prabhupada placed his lotus feet.
Hmm.
Great place for book distribution. So these three ladies came to the table, and they were all crying. I said, "Why are you all crying?" They said, "Well, there's a violin player just 20 yards down, and he's so good." We all started crying.
Hmm.
So I said, "Well, let me show you this here. I have this pretty amazing book, Bhagavad Gita." So I showed it to them. And one of them said, "That violin player, he was good. But this Bhagavad Gita you just showed us, this is the cherry on top of the cake." So they all took Bhagavad Gitas, and one of them gave $50 to cover the cost of all of them.
Hmm.
Now, two of them were from Los Angeles. One was in San Diego here. So I gave the invitation card. We have a program here every Thursday evening where guests come, new people come, and they get
Hmm.
to hear about Krishna. So I gave her that, and 2 days later, myself and Balaram, the main manager here at the
Hmm.
temple, we were talking in the lobby, and she came in and she said, "You gave a book to me 2 days ago." And I couldn't wait till Thursday. I had to come and let you know what I think about this. This book is amazing.
Hmm.
And she's just pouring out her heart for 10 minutes. How she's on this, journey, the spiritual journey. She went through a lot of difficulty, and now she's just
Mm.
doing her spiritual journey, and on and on and on. And we were just me and Bob were like amazed. So I told her, right now there's going to be a class on the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the postgraduate study of the Bhagavad Gita. You can go in and listen now. And she said, "Okay." And the person giving the class was Rajendranandana Prabhu, who just 2 days ago he left this world. I don't know if you know.
Yes.
You know Rajendranandana Prabhu?
Yeah, I talked to him 10 days ago.
Yeah, he just passed away a couple days ago. So he's a very good speaker. He gave a nice class,
Uh-huh.
and she loved it, and she stayed around the temple the whole day. And I was thinking, this lady is a devotee. And when I went to the temple, I also did. I never left. That was it. So I was thinking, this lady might be like this, but I had to find out about her before I could suggest her going to another temple. She can't stay in San Diego. There's no facility here. We have a very small temple here, no
Right.
facility for women. So, but I had to find out about her before I suggest she go to some temple. So it turns out she is a chemical engineer, a concert pianist, and had managed businesses. So at that time, she wasn't working. for whatever reason. So I was thinking, whoosh, this lady is like very qualified to be a good devotee, intelligent, very intelligent lady.
Mm-hmm.
So then one devotee suggested she go to Gainesville. Kalakanta, he has the little college there. He has 3-month semesters where people that are interested, they go and they learn about Krishna. By the way, he's got another one. He's got another branch in Houston. So he's expanding. So he said, I only allow 12 people for each semester. 11 spots have already been taken. There's one left. So I said, okay, let me see what she says. Mm-hmm. So I told her about his program there in Gainesville. There's one spot left. So if you're interested, I suggest you go home and register and see if he accepts you. So she was pretty excited. She went home, registered, and he accepted her. And she's there right now, practicing Krishna consciousness. And the devotees love her so much. She's already given Srimad Bhagavatam classes. She's only been 2 months. So that was a nice experience. Another one that happened here in Balboa recently.
Okay.
Is one gentleman came by the table and I offered the Bhagavad Gita to him, and he said, "Oh yeah, I'm a little familiar with the Bhagavad Gita." So I was preaching to him, and he didn't have any money, but I let him have it anyway because he said, "I can come back and give you a donation." Mm-hmm. That's all right. So I trusted him. He appreciated that.
Yes.
So I got his phone number also. I kept in touch with him, inviting him to the Thursday night program. And he was coming on Thursdays pretty regularly. And then he started coming other days as well. He started having some friendship with the devotees. And eventually he moved into the temple. So he's here now. Huh. And he's one of the 5 full-time book distributors in San Diego. Wow. So that really turned out good. And he's one of the favorite devotees here. He just went right into it.
Was your conversation when you first met him at the park and you presented the Gita, did you present again the photographs or the paintings from the book? Or what was your line of questioning or discussion once you maybe heard or from him that he had already heard of the Gita? So how did you preach to him? How did you just, further the conversation to entice him to take the book?
Well, it happened about 8 months ago. I can't tell you exactly what.
Okay.
Regular preaching.
But there are some people that you talk more philosophy than just a basic.
Yeah, like with him, he was already a little familiar, so I was just, went a little deeper in the philosophy with him, mm-hmm. And he really appreciated it. He's doing wonderful.
Great. What about people say, "Oh, this is Krishna. That's your God." I don't, you worship idols. I've heard about you guys. Do you have a response to that?
If someone is kind of cynical like that, I just tell them, "Hey, thanks a lot. Nice meeting you. Have a good day."
Okay.
If someone is already, you got to be a little submissive, a little interested. If someone is cynical, I just kind of
right.
Why waste time?
Yes. Very good. Any, how do you, because you've been doing Sankirtan for how many years now? Have you added it up? 50.
43.
43. We'll round it up to 50. So where do you, how do you speak to the mind on those days that you're tired or you're not inspired, or maybe you didn't chant your rounds well, or where do you get your inspiration from to continue, I guess, every day? I don't know how many days a week you're going on book distribution, but help others overcome the chatter of the mind to get out there. What words of advice do you have in that regard?
There's a verse that I recently learned from the Bhagavad Gita. Vijaya Prabhu, he's one of my great inspirations. He mm-hmm. has this program called Chad. You're familiar with Chad?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So, and actually it's really good because as you read it over and over, you find things that really, inspire you. So there's a verse that has inspired me quite a bit on book distribution. when those difficult times come, and they do. He says, Krishna says, Labante Brahma Nirvana Risik Samakamasa China Dvaiti Tatna Sarvata Hiterita. That one who is beyond the dualities that arise from doubt. That first sentence is so deep. One who is beyond the dualities that arise from doubt. So if one is out on book distribution and you're having a bit of a hard time, that's duality. It's not good. No, it's always good. Whatever a Krishna arranges, it's always good. So, and if you don't see it as good, then no faith. So that first line, one who is beyond the dualities that arise from doubt. So we have faith that whatever Krishna arranges is good. Then whether people are saying yes or people are saying no, it's good. If people are saying no a lot, that's just like those. That's actually medicine. No's are actually, sometimes they call them gems. Gems, treasures. The rejection is treasure to help us go beyond the false ego, the attachment, the duality. So these are precious. The no's are very good. So Labante Brahma Nirvana, one who is free of the dualities that arise from doubt, whose mind is always engaged within, thinking of Krishna, who is always busy acting for the welfare of others. That's another one, who is always busy acting for the welfare of others. What is the best welfare activity we can do? Giving Krishna to others. And then the last one is, and who is free of sin, such a person is understood to be liberated. Powerful verse, very powerful verse.
Very good. For those that don't know, maybe you can explain the breakdown of what Chad, how do you define Chad?
Yeah, chapter a day, Bhagavad Gita. So some devotees, they chant the Sanskrit and the English. I just chant the English. Mm-hmm. Some devotees just chant the Sanskrit. So either one, chapter a day. Actually, Vaisesika Prabhu got that, Chad, from Prabhupada. Prabhupada wrote many devotees saying that it would help you if you read a chapter a day of Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada instructed many devotees in his letters. Read a chapter a day.
And that's just a verse, or you include the purports when you read it?
Just a verse. But then I have another bookmark where I read the verses and the purports, because I'm sure Prabhupada wouldn't be pleased if you just read the translation and you don't read the purports. I mean, Prabhupada's purports are just like, each sentence that Prabhupada has put in his purports are like verses in themselves. They're slokas. They're just, Prabhupada's purports are just amazing. Right. So I have a bookmark where I read a chapter a day, but then I have another bookmark where I read, I gradually go through reading the translation and the purport. And Prabhupada told one devotee, he said, you should understand every word in my books. So it's so important that we read Srila Prabhupada's books.
So that would be premature to go on to be a book distributor until and unless you are solid in your faith from reading his books?
Where I get my inspiration from? Reading Prabhupada's books. Every day before I go out, I read Bhagavad Gita, I read Srimad Bhagavatam. And if time, I also read Chaitanya Charitamrita. But let me tell you a few stories now.
Go ahead.
Some stories. I have 15 more minutes and I have another meeting.
Go ahead. So, these are great. You're doing great.
Okay. So I was showing a book to someone. He's a Muslim. And he said, oh no, I can't take this book. If I take this book home, my parents will kill me. I said, well, God is more important than your parents. And he was shocked. I've never heard that before. It's true. It's obviously true, but I never heard that before. I said, well, it's true. God is more important than your parents. In this book, it's all about God. Bhagavad Gita means a song of God. So he said, well, thank you, but I can't take it. So the next day, he comes up to me, he says, oh, I'm so glad that you're here. I got to speak to you. You won't believe it. Last night I had a dream, and my parents were very cruel to me, mean, just, I was thinking, oh, why are they like this? And then the Bhagavad Gita appeared glowing above them. And I was like, wow, I gotta get that book. In the dream. I told him, you see, God's confirming that he's more important than your parents who are so cruel to you in your dream. So he got a Bhagavad Gita.
Great.
That was pretty nice.
Very good. That's nice. Another one?
I was distributing books in at the Woodford Festival in Australia. Every year, we before the COVID, we would go there, and we would distribute tons of prasadam, $120,000 worth of prasadam in 7 days, 6 days. And I would distribute books. I'd have the book table right next to them, and I'd distribute a bunch of books as well. So I distributed a book to one person, and he was showing some interest, and he got the book, and thank you, have a great life. I tell them, instead of have a good day, I tell everybody, have a great life. So then we went back to the temple, New Govardhan, and he's there. He's at the temple. I'm like, wow, you're here. He said, yeah, I thought I'd come and check it out a little bit. So that was 3 years ago. He's still there. And just recently, he made another devotee. He would go out on book distribution, and Harinam, he likes Harinam. So now recently, I heard from the temple president, Ajita Prabhu in New Govardhan, Australia, that he just made another devotee who is now also on book distribution. So some people say, oh, there's book distribution, that's something of the past, they don't make devotees. But no, there's still, book distribution is making devotees. Now, a book I gave to a book to, now he also made a person a book distributor, so it goes on and on like this. So another time I was in, these are a few Australia. So Australia is a great place for book distribution. I was in Melbourne, Australia, and devotees told me that I had given a book to one person up in the Gold Coast. The Gold Coast is north of Sydney. It's maybe 3,000 miles away, 2,000, something like that. So I had given him a book, this Bhakta, and now he was joining the temple in Melbourne. So it was a pleasant surprise. And another time I was at a temple, I was in Melbourne also. A lady came up to me and said, Vijaya, you made me a devotee. I said, how's that? He said, I have your book. See, when we were distributing books in the airport, we would always put our name in the book. So what happened is I distributed a book to someone from Australia. He went back to Australia and he sold it to the bookstore. They have these books. People going to sell their books who they don't want, for
right.
So she was in that bookstore, and she bought it for a couple bucks or something. So a used bookstore. So she said, "This I read it. I became a devotee, and it's because you gave this book to somebody."
This is a book that you distributed to her in the States?
No. So I distributed it to somebody else from Australia in Los Angeles.
In Los Angeles. So it went from LA to.
He sold it to the bookstore, the
Right.
used bookstore, because he thought, I guess he wasn't that interested. Sometimes that happens. So that he thought, well, I'll get a couple bucks off of it, sell it to the used bookstore. So this lady, she was in the used bookstore.
I got it.
Found it. Said, oh, this looks interesting. So she took it home, she read it, became a devotee. So she's a devotee now in Melbourne.
What's the purport? Give me the purport to that story.
Get the books out.
Say it again. You're cutting out a little bit.
We just get the books out. We just have to, as Prabhupada wanted, he said he wanted at least one DBT book in each home. So we just got to get the books out, and Krishna works his magic. Krishna's, as Prabhupada said, he's a transcendental magician. So we just have to get the books out, and the books, they're not just books, they're Krishna. Just like in a purport in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, or Prabhupada says in a purport that Krishna is compared to a diamond, and the pure devotee is compared to gold. If you have a gold ring and you put a diamond in it, it's very attractive. They complement each other. So when we're distributing books, we're not distributing ink and paper. We're distributing gold and diamonds, Prabhupada and Krishna. So we just have to get these priceless gems, these valuable gems out to the people. And some people are going to be touched. It's going to touch their hearts, and they're going to become devotees. We just have to get the books out there as much as possible, and people will benefit. Prabhupada said, even if they touch a book, they benefit.
Right. Do you ever speak to a potential buyer or devotee, eventually, maybe, hopefully, straight from the books, and instead of that technique that you use by just showing them the paintings and a little bit about that angle of the philosophy, as far as yoga goes, controlling the senses? Do you sometimes read a verse from the Bhagavatam or from the Gita straight away, and perhaps you perceive that they are a little more receptive or intelligent in search of knowledge? Do you ever preach in that way?
So I read in this. In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth. And upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. Again, this is non-sectarian.
Yes.
It's just beautiful. People love it. People hear that and say, all right, I'll take it.
Good. So sometimes the book sells itself.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I know you have to go. We're running short of time as far as you're concerned there. So one last bit of advice that you can give to any devotees or book distributors, just something, words of wisdom from Vijay.
Well, instead of words from me, I'll tell you one thing that Prabhupada said. He said, our only motto in life should be to read and distribute books.
Okay, say that one more time. The only what?
The only motto we should have in life is to read and distribute books. Prabhupada said that.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's been a joy being with you, and I've been inspired, and hopefully the other viewers will as well, and develop their faith again in book distribution and reading Prabhupada's books. And I'm sure they'll garner this method that you have developed over these decades to further propagate Krishna consciousness through Prabhupada's distribution of his books. So thank you for that. Thank you for your service.
Actually, there is one other thing I want to say.
Okay, go ahead.
There's one other thing I wanted to say about when they were having difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
There's a verse that Prabhupada said is the guide for all devotees of Krishna.
Okay.
And when we're having difficulty on book distribution, this is important to remember. And when we're having difficulty in any way in our Krishna consciousness, Lord Brahma says, Tatena kampam susamiksamano gunjane eva vitam vipakam ridbhag porvira dhatam namaste jivetu muktipadesa doyava. Lord Brahma says, my dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds, and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. So when there is difficulty, we should always think it's due to something I wasn't chanting my rounds good, or maybe I offended somebody or something like that. And so that's the negative. And the positive, continue on serving Krishna with our mind, body, and words. So important. This Prabhupada said this is the most important verse. You know, all this is the guide. Prabhupada says in Nectar Devotion. This verse is the guide for all devotees of Krishna.
Great. Excellent. Words of wisdom to live by. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Good seeing you again.